Welcome students. In this video, we're going to check off one of our standards for our additive manufacturing standard where we design, sketch, plan, and machine 3D printed work. So if we come down to the grade level indicators, this video is going to help you with this first one here. You're going to use the 3D modeling software, that's Inventor, to create an object, in this case a marker pig for your cribbage board that satisfies a set of design criteria. Your design criteria for this one is it's got to fit in one of those existing 1/8-inch holes. Right, so in future videos, we'll talk about how we can meet these other two indicators. This one, we're going to check off number 1. So I've got 3 example cribbage pigs here, and I'll go through how to manufacture, how to model up each of them in our Inventor program. If you've got an idea for something that's not here, by all means, sketch it out on a sheet of paper first. Show it to your instructor, show it to your classmates, and I'm sure we can figure out how to make it happen. Okay, so we're going to start off with this simple gold one. I'll show you how to make a red, one that's shaped like this. You can make it any color you want. And then finally, we'll talk about this one that's got some revolved parts on it. So when you start Inventor, you're going to be at a screen that looks like this. We're going to click on this button here that says New Part. And then your screen is going to be blank when you first get into it. So in Inventor, everything we do starts off as a sketch, a 2-dimensional flat sketch, and then we turn it into a 3D object. So I just clicked on the Start 2D Sketch, and you can see I've got these 3 flat drawing planes that show up on my screen. So I'm going to select this plane down here, the XZ plane. I'm going to click on it, and then I'm going to grab my circle tool from my sketching toolbar up here. Now what I want to do is try and constrain this circle to the origin. So you'll notice when I get over top of the yellow dot where the lines intersect, my cursor turns green. That tells me it's snapped to my origin. So I'm going to click once to start my circle. I'll drag my cursor out, and now I'm going to type before I hit enter, before I click again. And this is the diameter I want for my cribbage pig. And now I'm entering a diameter of 0.120. That's 120 thousandths. And that's actually 5 thousandths of an inch smaller than an 1/8 of an inch. The decimal equivalent for an 1/8 inch would be 0.125. Okay, we're making this smaller on purpose so that it slides in and out of that hole on our cribbage board a little bit easier and it won't jam up on us. Okay? So we will print a test pig. You might find that, with the material you're printing or the cribbage board you're using, 120 thousandths isn't the right number. We can always come back and edit the shape of our object later on. We're going to use 120 thousandths as our starting point. So I'm going to hit enter, and you'll notice it frees my cursor, puts a circle on my screen, which is what I want. So now I'm going to come up and I will click this green finish sketch check. And now I'm going to use the extrude. You could think of that like a stretching command, and you can see it wants to stretch that circle out into a cylinder. If we look over here on our extrude menu, it's going to extrude or stretch it out 1 inch, which is a little short for our cribbage pig. So I'm going to change this to 1 1/4 inches. 1 1/4, and then I'll click on OK. Now I'm using the magnifying glass and the sheet of paper over here. That's zoom all. So if my object is bigger than my screen, it'll zoom me out so I can see what's going on. Okay, the last thing I want to do on this part is I just want to round the top and bottom. Again, that'll help guide it into that hole. Hopefully my parts won't bind up when they interact with each other in real life. To do that, I'm going to use the fillet button up here. So I'll click on fillet. Now the preset size for a fillet is an 1/8 of an inch radius, which is way bigger than our part. So I'm going to click on this number and I'm going to override it to 50 thousandths or 0.050 inches. And then I'll hit my enter key. And now I got to come over here with my cursor and I'm going to click on the corners I want to apply that fillet to. Right. Once my object looks the way I want it to, I can click OK. And if you want to do a real simple cribbage pig, at this point, you could go File, Save. Right, we'll put this in that Woods file we created on our Google Drive. And if this is what you want your cribbage pig to look like. Oh, too many tabs open, Mr. Coleman. All right, you've just used the 3D modeling software to create an object that should satisfy a set of design criteria. All right, you could shut this video off and go on to the next one. If you want to make a more complex cribbage pig, continue watching. All right, so if you're sticking with me, we're going to move on to making an object like this next. We got a cylinder with a square, or I guess that would be a cube, would be the 3D definition of that shape on top of it. Right, so if you want to make that shape, we're going to go here and we'll go new. And this one's going to start off as a sketch as well. So I click Start 2D Sketch. I'll go to this plane down here. I'll grab my circle tool, go to the origin, click once, drag my cursor out, and now I'm just typing on my keyboard. So we talked quite a bit about this in the last cribbage pig. 120 thousandths is a good jumping off point for the diameter. So now I'm going to hit the enter key to lock in that diameter. I want to say finish sketch, and then I'm going to extrude this. At this time, I'm not going to go to 1 1/4 inches. I'm just going to extrude it 3/4 of an inch. So I'm typing in 0.75 for my distance. Then I'll click OK. And just like I did in that last one, I'm going to fillet the bottom of my cribbage pig so it fits into the hole better. So I'll click on the radius. I'm going to enter in a radius of 50 thou. Then I'll click on that sharp corner I want to apply the fillet to. If I like the way the preview looks, and I do, I can click OK. All right, now we're going to make that cube on top. So the cube is going to be another 2D sketch. So I'm going to go to Start 2D Sketch, and I need to pick a flat surface or a drawing plane to draw on. All right, so for this one, the only flat surface I've got is the top of my cylinder. So I'm going to click on that. And then to get that square shape, I'm going to go to the drop down under rectangle. And yours probably defaulted to a 2-point rectangle. I'm going to come down to a 2-point center rectangle. And that lets me draw a rectangle by selecting the center point and then an edge point. So again, I'm going to put my cursor on the origin, and then I'm going to drag it out until the box is the size I want. And it'll kind of snap right to the edge of that circle. That's what I want it to look like. If you want to try making your square a little bigger, smaller, feel free to do so. Okay, so once it's the size I want, I'm going to hit enter. Oh, I'm going to try that again because apparently it didn't work for me. All right, I clicked and it seemed to work. So now I'll say finish sketch. All right, and I'm going to go to the extrude command and I'll extrude that shape out. I'll do the zoom extent so we can see what happens. So this is putting it up another 0.75. I think that looks pretty good. In my original one, I made this square a 1/2 inch tall. So you can mess around with these numbers, see what looks good to you. Once it's looking the way you want, you can go ahead and click the OK button down here. In my example project, right, I took and I applied a fillet to this bottom edge here. So instead of giving me an outside corner, it took and it filled in that inside corner with a little bit of material. And we can do that by going to the fillet tool. You can see it's already got a 50 thousandth of an inch radius. So if you want to apply this fillet, we're just going to pick this round surface here where the cylinder intersects with the cube. Okay, I can get 3 out of the 4 from this side. So now I'm going to come to my view cube, spin my object around, and I can pick the 4th corner. All right. So now I've got a bunch of flat surfaces. If I wanted to, I could come here and I could use the Start 2D Sketch button, and I could sketch on any of these surfaces if I wanted to continue adding to this and changing the shape. Or, again, if I'm happy with it, I can save it just like I did in this first object, putting it to my Google Drive. The final one we're going to draw is this one. This has some revolved shapes. Right? So we're going to open up a new drawing plane at one point in this drawing, and we're going to use the revolve tool to add and cut away some material. You could use both of these features. You could use one of these features. This is your cribbage pig. You can get as creative as you want. And so again, I'm going to go to the home screen. I'll click on new. I'm going to start a 2D sketch on this flat plane. Just like my first two, I'm going to draw a circle that's 120 thousandths of an inch in diameter. I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to extrude that circle. We'll go 3/4 of an inch or 750 thousandths. And then I'm going to fillet the bottom 50 thousandths of an inch. All right, so here's what I've got. If you've made it this far in our video, this should look pretty familiar because we've done this a few times. I want a flat surface that I can draw that circle on and turn it into a sphere, but I don't want to draw on this surface here because it won't work out for me. So I'm going to come over to my model bar. I'm going to click the plus symbol next to origin, and then I'm just going to hover my mouse over these 3 planes here. 2 of them should intersect my object. So I'm going to pick one of the planes that intersects my object, and now I'm right-clicking on it. I'm going to turn the visibility of this plane back on, and I'm going to sketch on that plane. And so I'm going to go to Start 2D Sketch. We'll draw that ball on the top of our object first. And so I'm hovering on the plane. You can see the plane turns green when I hover over it. I will click on that to start my sketch. And then I'm going to zoom out. Oh, that was in. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit here. Oh, I'm struggling. I forgot my mouse today, so I'm using the stylus. I prefer to use a mouse in Inventor. All right, so I got that position kind of like I want. I'm going to come up and grab the circle tool now. And you'll notice when I get my circle right over the center of this object, I get some dotted lines showing up. All right, that's what I want to see. That tells me I'm going to draw the midpoint of this circle right over the midpoint of my cylinder. So I'm just going to kind of come up here where I think it's going to look good. I'm going to click once to start my circle, and then I'm going to drag my circle out till it locks onto one of the corners of that cylinder. So you can see as I pull my cursor down, it turns green, kind of snaps to that corner. That's what I want. So I'm going to click once to create my circle. Now I got to come grab the line tool. And what I want to do is draw a line right down the middle of this circle. So again, your mouse will kind of click right to the center. It'll snap in, which is what we want. Then I'm going to drag my mouse down, and I want to lock it in to the center point. And this line could go right to the edge of the circle. It could come down a little further like I'm doing right now. It doesn't really matter. We just need a straight line here that we can revolve our object around. So I like what I got. I'm going to hit the green finish sketch check. I'm going to do the zoom extent so we can zoom out. And now this time, instead of extruding, I'm going to use the revolve tool. And what I need to do is select a profile I want to revolve. That's going to be half of my circle. And then I need to select an axis or a straight line I want to revolve it around. That's going to be the straight line we drew in. So when I click on that, it'll give me a preview. I can move my view cube around here to check this out from other angles too before I click on OK. It looks good. So I'm going to say OK. All right, there I got a sphere on the top. Now if I want to cut or add other shapes to this at this point, I can. On this cribbage pig, I put a little groove in here, so we'll do that on this one as well. And I'm going to go to Start 2D Sketch. I'm going to sketch on the same plane, so I'm going to turn my plane green and click on it. And we'll go Zoom Extents. And I'm going to draw a rectangle. You could do this with a circle. There's a polygon tool down here where you can enter in how many sides you want to have on your object. You could make all sorts of shapes here if you really wanted to. I'm just going to stick with the rectangle. So I'm going to come over the edge of my object. This is what I did on the last one. I'm going to draw a rectangle that kind of starts outside of my cylinder, finishes inside of my cylinder. And that's going to be my profile I'll revolve around in a minute. Now I need to draw a straight line to revolve it around. And what I found is if I draw this line so it extends, when I click the escape key to free me, my straight line so it extends outside of my object, it's a lot easier to click on it when we get to the revolve tool. So I've got a rectangle here. Part of it's inside my object, part of it's outside. I've got a straight line that I can revolve it around. So I'm going to finish my sketch. All right. Then I'm going to go to the revolve tool. Okay. And when I pick my profile, I'm going to kind of hover inside of my object. So I've got that whole rectangle picked for my profile. Now I'm going to come over here and select my axes. And you can see what's happening right now is it's in a mode where it wants to add material. So if we look under output, I got a blue square with a blue square over it. This is called join. It's adding material to this. So if that's a look you're going for, you could do that. We could even come in and like fill at the edges of this later. Go ahead and click OK. If you want to cut, like I did in my video, we're going to go to the next output. And it gives you a little preview of the material it might cut away with those red lines. Right? So if you want to cut that away, we would say OK at this point. And so I think I'll stick with cutting it. I'm going to click OK. Right? And at this point, if you want to add more, you can. We haven't saved this file yet, so I would highly recommend you do so. And in the next video, we'll talk a little more about converting this to a .stl and setting up our 3D printer. So again, if we go back to the proficiency table, you are going to use the available technology to convert to STL in the next video, and you'll preview the 3D printing process in the next video. So that's the 3D modeling process. Again, if you've got questions, you've got your instructor, you've got your classmates, you've got the whole Google universe to search. There's lots of good spots to look for answers if you're trying to do something advanced with this cribbage pig. I've got confidence that you'll be able to figure it out and make any object you wish.